In this video, we'll understand demand and its relationship with price, as well as supply and its relationship with price, and how the forces of demand and supply interact in the market to establish equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Then we'll also look into various reasons why the demand can shift, or the shocks that is going to shift the demand curve, as well as the shock that can shift the supply curve, and that will affect the equilibrium price and quantity. Now notice the relationship between price and quantity demanded is inverse, meaning that as price goes up, it reduces our willingness to demand things as a consumer. When you think about the sellers, on the other hand, when the price goes up, the sellers are going to earn a greater profits. As a result, they would be willing to supply more in that market, right? So there is a inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded, and there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. When the forces of demand and supply interact, what happens is you would get one unique price at which the demand is going to be equal to the supply. So in this example, it is the equilibrium price of 6, which ensures that the consumers are wanting to demand 88 units of this product, and the sellers are willing to sell 88 units of the same product, and hence $6 will be the established price in this market, known as the equilibrium price, and this number 88 is the equilibrium quantity. Now at any price which is not 6, at price, for example, below 6, the demand is more because it's cheaper for the buyers, but it is less incentive for the sellers to sell the product, and hence the demand is exceeding the supply when the price is below 6 in this particular example, telling us that there is an excess demand. And if you have excess demand, the buyers are going to bid up the price because there is the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. At prices above 6, we can see that it is good for the sellers because they are going to earn a greater profit, so they are willing to supply more. But as a buyer, it is going to be disincentive for them to buy, or they are willing to buy less because the prices are higher, and that creates excess supply of that product if the price is above $6. As a result of this excess supply, you will have these forces to ensure that the price will go down, and at point where it settles at $6, we see that the quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Right, now let's take different reasons why this equilibrium price will change. Right, so here are several reasons why the demand can change, and here are the several reasons why the supply can change. These reasons are going to shift the demand curve, and these are the reasons which is going to shift the supply curve. So let's take an example. Let's assume that there is a positive shock to wealth or income, and that is going to mean that the consumers are wanting to demand more of this product. So this is an example of a positive demand shock. And if we just take an example, let's assume that is, instead of 100, we have a positive shock of 10 units, which means that the demand curve is going to shift right. So you can clearly see that that's given. The new demand curve is this red line over here, and which is to the right side of the original demand curve. And we always want to use the word right and the left to represent the shift because it's a quantity is measured horizontal axis, right? So more quantity of demand would mean that it's shifting on the right side. Now nothing has happened in the supply curve, but what that will do in the market, that it's going to increase the price, equilibrium price of the product from $6 that was there initially before the shock to $8 after the shock. And what will happen to equilibrium quantity? Same story, equilibrium quantity initially was 88 units. Now that equilibrium quantity has gone up to 94 units. You can clearly see over here that the equilibrium price of $8, the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are the same numbers after the positive shock. We can also think of a negative shock to the supply. Say, for example, an increase in the cost of manufacturing this product. So anything that goes in making this product is now more costly to acquire for the sellers or the suppliers. And this example is of a negative supply shock. This is going to lower the incentive for the businesses to supply this product because it's more costly to manufacture this product now. In terms of numbers, it's going to be a lowering of the supply. In terms of the graph, notice that the supply curve is going to shift left. Now, what is it going to do to the equilibrium price and quantity? Notice that the demand curve is still the same because all the factors that drives the demand curve are still constant. We are assuming them to be constant. Of course, in real world, all of these things will change at the same time, but here we are taking one at a time. So here, given there is no change to the demand factors, any shock to the supply which is negative for the sellers is going to lower the supply, and as a result the equilibrium price will go up from $6, which was initial, to $8, which is the new after the shock, after the supply curve has shifted to the left. What does it mean for equilibrium quantity? Well, the equilibrium quantity initially was 88 units. You can see over here at $6 the equilibrium quantity was 88, but now the equilibrium quantity is 84 at $8. So the price has gone up and the equilibrium quantity has gone down. And that makes intuitive sense. It costs more dollars to manufacture this product, and hence the price of the product will go up and also lower the quantity demanded for that product, right? Because as price goes up, the quantity demanded would go down. We can also think about some combination of the two. So there is no reason for us to believe that only one thing is changing in the economy. In fact, in reality, all the things change at the same time, and our task is to understand and make sense of what is it going to do to our equilibrium price and quantity in that market. So for example, let's assume here that the income goes up, and that's a positive shock to the demand. We just did that. So let's make it 110, and that's going to increase the demand, and graphically speaking, it's going to shift the demand curve to the right, increasing the price and equilibrium quantity. Now, if this was the only thing that happened in the market, then the equilibrium price would have settled at 8 from 6 initially, and the equilibrium quantity would have gone up. But this is not the only thing that is happening in the economy. In the economy, there is also the cost of manufacturing this product has gone up, and let's say not by the same proportion, but it went up, which is going to lower the supply, or it's going to shift the supply curve to the left. Now here we are assuming that the income effect is more powerful than the cost of manufacturing this product effect. So while the income has gone up significantly, say 20-25%, the cost of manufacturing has not gone up. It has gone up, but not by that proportion as the increase in income, meaning the demand force is more powerful in this example that we have than the negative force to the supply. Now, what does it do to the market? You can see that the new supply curve is to the left of the old because of the rising cost, maybe perhaps 5%. The new demand is to the right of the old demand curve, which is far more powerful than the negative shock to the supply. Let's say it's like 20% or so. That would mean that now the equilibrium quantity would be higher than the original one, right? So initially at $6, the equilibrium price was $6. At that price, the equilibrium quantity was 88, but now the equilibrium price has gone up to $9, at which the equilibrium quantity is 92. And then you can do all other exercises, just as an example that we did just right now.